other video or article, going to the bathroom was all that mattered, right? And what I learned was that my relationship with money was kind of the same way. I realized, I said, wait a minute, money to me is a lot like the bathroom is. A lot of us think we love money. Like you hear rappers talking about money over everything, right? They tattoo it on their arms, and money's the most important thing in the world. There are people that kill and steal over money. D1 in his song "I Hate Money," he talks about how money makes best friends stop speaking to each other. It makes people go out and do terrible things, etc. And a lot of the reason that we think we love money is because we don't have any money. Like a lot of times, whatever you crave or whatever you are what's the word, deficient, whatever you're deficient in tends to be your obsession. That tends to be the thing that you want the most, right? Like and that's why, for example, and I'm actually going to get to Judas and the Black Messiah in a second. In fact, I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper because y'all know how I get when I start getting into really making sure you get the point here. I sometimes will forget literally what the original point was, but I think this, I hope this works, I hope this helps you. So so one of the things I read, I remember when I was learning about relationships in general, was they say you should never date a person who is on the rebound. Like if you meet somebody, like I was talking about my friend earlier who married the lady who after they knew for 3 months and then they got divorced 6 months later. And I said, and I said, oh yeah, she has a crazy ex-boyfriend, probably because she was probably sleeping with him right before she started dating you. And one thing I mentioned to him was that I read somewhere that you should never date a person that is coming out of a relationship, because what happens is that their whole worldview is distorted by the previous relationship. So whatever they were missing in the previous relationship, that's what they're looking for. Whatever they're emotionally, this is going to get back to money, I swear. So whatever they were deficient with in the last relationship, they're going to overvalue that thing in the next relationship. Like if the sex was bad, they're going to want to marry somebody because the sex is good. Or if they didn't get or if the person was short and she likes tall men, then if you're tall, she's going to think she's in love with you for about 6 months until she realizes that there's a lot of other stuff, about you that she doesn't like. And so money is kind of the same way. A lot of us think we love money grew up without money. You grew up, maybe you form your relationship with money in a deficient environment where there was never enough money. Maybe you saw somebody die over money. Maybe you saw somebody, go sell their body over money. Maybe you saw somebody go get killed over money. Right? You had a cousin who got killed selling dope because of money, right? He's out hustling for drug money so he could buy stuff for his mama that they couldn't afford, etc. Right? And what happens though is that when you fulfill that lower level need, you start focusing on the higher level needs, right? And you really don't get to know yourself until all your basic needs are fulfilled. Because if you don't have those basic needs fulfilled, then you can't really actualize, live in your purpose or live your best life because your basic needs haven't been fulfilled. And I go back to the fact that I'm into this. Like I love finance. I'm very passionate about it. I love talking about it. But that didn't matter when I had to go pee. Like that was a basic need. And until that basic need was met, I was not going to be able to focus on anything else. Right. Just like the same way those kids that come to school and they say, well, why can't little Johnny read? Well, because little Johnny didn't eat breakfast that morning. Right. Or little Johnny got beat up by his daddy last night. Right. So ultimately, what I would say to you is knowing yourself and figuring out how to meet those basic needs. What it does is it creates a whole new reality for you. Like if you ever want to really live and know what it means to live and really find yourself, get yourself to a point where money isn't the number one driver of most decisions that you make on a daily basis. If you pay attention, look at how many people you see who will go and move to another city because of money. I talked to a young lady the other day, I mentor, who was saying that she wanted to move to North Carolina where her brother is so that they could raise their kids together. But she said, I may not do it because this job here in this other city is going to pay me more money. And I said, well, how much more? She said about 5,000 more per year. And I said, that's kind of interesting that $5,000 a year is the difference between your children getting to grow up with their cousins versus them not being able to do that, right? Or you being able to spend another, 50,000 hours of time with your brother that you won't get to spend because of $5,000 a year. So that's why little things like entrepreneurship are very valuable, because you get to the point where you have enough money, so then you can make decisions without money being in the equation. And it can actually create a dilemma. Some of us get to the point where that was my dilemma. I had gotten to the point where my whole life, because money was short, I was always doing everything to make money. I got out of bed because of money. I worked extra hard because of money. I would go here because of money, do that because of money. And then when I had enough money, I was like, gosh, I really don't have to do that. And I really don't like that stuff. I just do it because I needed the money, but now I don't need the money. So I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to do something else. And then I was like, well, what do I want to do? I don't know. I could not answer that question. And so money drives a lot of our decisions. In fact, if you think about it, right, when we raise our kids and we tell them what profession they should go into, and we say, oh, you'd make a great doctor or a great lawyer or a great accountant, that might be true. But then most of the time, 99% of the time, kids who grow up and become doctors and lawyers, if you ask them, like, if you had enough money, if your parents gave you a nest egg and had been doing, say, the $5 a day investing plan for 20 years, 30 years, and gave you $300,000 in your bank account, would you be going and working 14-hour shifts at the hospital every day? Or what would you be doing instead? Most people would say, I wouldn't even be here if I had enough money, right? I'm here because of the money, right? So one of the things you're doing when you're doing what you're doing right now, by making these consistent investments on behalf of your children and positioning them to be in a world where money is no longer the issue anymore, you're giving them a chance to really find out who they are and really live their best life. You give them a chance to make decisions on a daily basis that are not just driven by which decision will make the most money. And this was actually a critique that Karl Marx had about capitalism, is that capitalism makes you think that every choice you make, that you should sacrifice your life for the sake of making money. And it's not even a lot of money. These jobs don't pay a lot of money. It's enough money to keep you just over broke, right? So go back to Judas and the Black Messiah. You guys were asking, someone asked me about that. So the free lunch program. Here's the interesting thing about the free lunch program, and this is where money kind of ties into everything, right? And don't tell me, that because you're a Marxist or because you're an activist or whatever, that money doesn't matter. It always matters. Patrice Cullors, who runs Black Lives Matter, they raised $100 million. The minute they got money, they parted way. They cut off the head of the organization, and they created the Black Lives Matter Global Network to separate from all the localized branches, so they wouldn't have to share the money. And next thing you know, she's buying $3-4 million houses. So I'm sorry, money drives almost everything, right? Most activism is more effective when you have money. You can't run for office in America without hundreds of millions of dollars. Raphael Warnock, when he ran for Senate down in Georgia, needed $250 million to run for the Senate. So money kind of drives everything. So with the Black Panther Party, I would argue that having more money, having more financial resources would have helped them to be more effective in their mission. I think that, for example, if you have more resources, then you can have full-time employees who are making their money by pursuing their purpose and their passion, which might be being a part of the Black Panther Party, right? But instead, what happens is that the Black Panther Party, which I think had a little bit of a Marxist element. I'm not a complete Marxist, but I can appreciate some of the ideas over there. They actually have some good ideas. I'm just not a Marxist. I'm not a capitalist either. I'm just Boyce. That's just what I am. But the thing is that with the party, it's interesting that on one hand they'll say, "Oh, the capitalist pigs," and we hate the capitalists, and stuff like that. But then it's interesting because since you don't have enough money, you end up going to work for a capitalist on Monday when you can't be an activist anymore, and your kids tell you that they need a new pair of shoes and they need some food to eat, right? So one of the things I think the Black Lives, not Black Lives Matter, I'm sorry, the Black Panther Party, could have done that would have made their activism a little more effectively is one among many things, that free lunch program. It doesn't have to be a free lunch program. It could have been the 25-cent lunch program, which is still very, very cheap, very low cost, and they could feed the whole neighborhood, but they could also sustain the organization at the same time. You can't perpetually feed anybody if you're not feeding the source of the food in the first place. It's like when I talk to Alicia, my wife to be. I'm going to marry her very, very soon. I love her to death. I love her to life. How about that? I told her, I said, you give so much to the kids that you have nothing for yourself. And she's like, yeah, that's because I think about everybody but me. Everybody, I think about myself last. And I said, yeah, but actually, maybe you should think about yourself first, because in order for you to serve other people, you have to be healthy and whole. If you work yourself into a grave and you die an early death, then all the people that you claim to care about are going to suffer. They will not have their mother anymore. And so by taking care of yourself, you're achieving the original goal of taking care of all the people that depend on you, right? So what I would say is that when you talk about the Black Panther Party, and or any a lot of the activism that we see, I think some of it's done wrong, where people will walk with this mistaken assumption that that you should give until you have nothing left to give, and which means that ultimately you deplete the source of the thing that you're using for the giving. It's like saying, because I want to get to to this destination, I'm going to drive my car until it breaks down on the side of the road. Well, if the car breaks down on the side of the road, then you ain't going nowhere. So the Black Panther Party, what I would have suggested to them, and again, this is 2020 hindsight. I'm Monday morning quarterbacking. How dare I question some of the greatest leaders in the history of this country? I have no right to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway, just out of love and respect. But I would say that if they brought me in and said, "Hey, Dr. Boyce, what should we do? How can we make this activism stronger?" I'd say, well, let's look at the free lunch program. Everybody that comes in to participate in your free lunch program doesn't need to eat lunch for free. Some of these people have money in their pocket, and what's going to happen is that you're going to give them free food, and they're going to take the free food because that's just the rule of economics. If somebody gives you something for free, you take it. And then what they're going to do is they're going to take that $5 they got in their pocket, and they're going to go down to that white man's business. They're going to go to that liquor store, and buy some beer. Maybe they might go down to the white man's grocery store and give him some money. Then they're gonna go over to the other white man's department store and buy some shoes, right? So my argument would be that rather than making everything free for everybody, maybe you do a subsidy model where you base it on income somehow, right? So maybe what you do is you say, look, if you can show us that you really don't have the money, then we'll do it for free. But those of you who got it to give, we need you to go ahead and pay for your lunch so that we can afford to give away free lunch to other people. That's literally what we do in the Black Business School. We have a lot of people that come in and they get the free, they get a lot of free training. We do a lot of free stuff for the community. But then we know not all of y'all are broke. Not all of y'all being Black does not mean that you are that you took some oath of poverty, that you have nothing to spend. Black people spend $1.4 trillion a year, and it's on mostly non-Black businesses. So my argument is, look, if you believe in what we're doing and you think that we're doing it well and you think that we're a benefit to the community, then we shouldn't be last in line to receive financial support from you. We should be first in line, right? Because this is something that's going to go right back in to your community, right? So I would just say to you that that thinking through these economic models is really important, because part of the reason that your power as a community has not become what I believe it could be is because you're getting all your ideas from one side of the fence. If all you're doing is listening to, say, liberals on what it means to be strong and Black, then you're going to miss all the good ideas that are on the other side of that fence, on that conservative side. And I would argue that a strong model is where you're grabbing ideas from both sides. Okay, so the Black Panther Party had a great form of activism. They did a lot of great things for the world, but I would have changed that free lunch program because I believe that they needed money. They deserve money. They deserved a community that was going to financially support the people that they believe in, and not just people who are looking for a savior and looking for Superman to solve all their problems for them. All right, so Thomas Curtis says, hello, Dr. Watkins. I was introduced to a crypto coin called Rocket Bunny by a friend. This person invested $600 and now supposedly made $2,000 in a week. Can you elaborate on this type of coin? Yeah, I read a little bit about Rocket Bunny, and it's one of the many cryptos that's out there. I'm not enough of a crypto expert to say if it was valid or not. The white paper looks solid. I went to the website. I would be very careful though about jumping on any trend with a cryptocurrency, because you got cryptos out here that are not going to exist in 5 or 10 years. The majority of the cryptos that are out here are going to be gone. Let's keep it 100, keep it 100% clear, including Bitcoin. Bitcoin may be gone, in 5, 10 years. Why would you say that? Well, because when the internet first started, the dominant companies on the internet, most of them are no longer here. Many of them are not here anymore. AOL, what was it? Netscape used to dominate. What was the other big one? MySpace was replaced by Facebook. So, but the internet, the core infrastructure, the infrastructural technology that drove all this innovation, that's still here. But the companies that led the internet Many of them are gone. So, if you ask me, do I believe in a currency called Rocket Bunny? I don't know. I'm not going to tell you it's a bad investment or a good one. What I would look at if I'm thinking about investing in Rocket Bunny is, first, if I did it, I wouldn't put my real money in there. I would just put some play money in there. Like you're literally taking a trip to Vegas when you invest in something like that. Two, I would not look at it as a long term investment. There are some investments that you hold on for dear life. Um, Rocket Bunny hasn't proven itself. It's been around for 3 or 4 months. It doesn't look like it's been around long. It has to prove itself, right? That consistent existence over time, there's no replacement for that. No replacement for that. No matter how many promises somebody makes, there's nothing that replaces that consistency over time, whether you're talking about a relationship with a company or a relationship with a person. I just tell people, look, if you haven't shown me consistency over at least a year or two, I'm not going to believe anything you say until I see it, right? Until I've seen that action, right? So the same thing is true with Rocket Bunny. So the other thing you might want to run into is, I saw someone that ran into this problem. They bought this obscure crypto coin on some exchange, that they'd heard about, and the coins were trading for a penny or whatever. So the craziest thing, the most wonderful thing happened to him. His coin value went from a penny to 25 cents, right? So that means his investment was 25 times greater than the original amount he put up. Awesome, right? Good for him. Happy birthday to you. Here's the problem. In assets that are thinly traded, there is no market to sell your stuff. So he went to the market to try to sell. There were no buyers. There were no buyers. And what happens is that in stock investing, they have what they call the bid-ask spread, which is a spread that the so-called market maker creates. So a market maker is kind of like, think about a club, right? When you go to a club and if you're a pretty lady, you put on your best dress, you're looking for a man, men show up, we got our swag on, we're looking for a woman. Well, they're creating a market. They're bringing together to a market. Is anytime you're bringing together buyers and sellers, or traders rather, together to engage in a transaction. Sex is the ultimate transaction. That's even more important than any financial transaction you ever make. So nightclubs make money by creating a market, bringing together men and women that are looking for each other so they can get together and engage in whatever grown people do. So the market maker is kind of like the owner of the club. They're the ones who get paid because they're bringing together two sides of the transaction, right? So the market makers, for these stocks, for these thinly traded stocks, what they do is they charge a really high fee, which comes in that bid-ask spread, which means that in order for me to sell the asset to you in my right hand, I'm buying it from someone else in my left hand. If I make the way I make money is I'm buying it for one price, I'm selling it for another, right? Maybe I'm buying it for a penny, I'm selling it for 5 cents. So I'm making 4 cents on every transaction, and I do that over and over, and I make money that way. So what tends to happen is that in these really thinly traded markets, that spread that I use as the market maker to pay myself, it gets bigger, because it's like, hey, like, think about it. If I create a nightclub in New York City, yeah, I can make some money with that for sure, but I'm gonna have a lot of competition. So I'm gonna have to cut my prices in order to get people to pick my club over the other 80 clubs that are out there. But if I put a club in Dubuque, Iowa, and it's the only black club in the city, and there aren't that many black people there to begin with, then maybe I'm gonna charge a little more because I know people will pay it, right? Because there's nowhere else to go. Where else are you gonna go? This is Dubuque. There's nothing to do here, right? So, or maybe Des Moines. I don't remember. I don't know the names of those white cities. But anyway, so the point is to say that, when you're talking about some of these cryptos, the markets are really bad, really thinly traded. These are markets that are subject to tremendous amounts of manipulation, very bad players who will pump and dump on you and body slam you. It's like going out. It's like going and hanging out in a bad neighborhood. It's like going to like going to the club in a hood where you might get shot that night. You might get lucky or you might get shot, right? So in a lot of these thinly traded stocks, in cryptos, I just don't mess with them because the market is so bad. On the flip side of that, if you look at the other extreme, look at companies like Google. Google has a beautifully designed market, right? At any point in the day, you can go find a seller for your asset just like that. That is an awesome benefit to stock trading that people, I think, they underestimate how valuable that is. So think about it like this: if I have $100,000 that I saved up, or 50,000, or whatever, and I put that money into my business. Let's say I go and I say, I want to start a business. And I want to go make money in my business. So I pour 50 grand into my business, and my business becomes a revenue generating asset. It's making me, maybe $3,000 a month or something like that. Well, what if I want to sell the business? What if I just say, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm gonna get out of this business. Can you really, do you think it's easy to find a buyer? Can you get somebody that'll come along and be like, oh, you put 50 grand in? Well, I'll give you 50 grand, or I'll give you 80 grand. Is that possible? No, you can't do. I mean, it's really hard to do. Some people can do it, but it's very difficult. With a stock, though, you take that same 50 grand, you put that money into a business, um, you're doing the same thing. Like if you're a shareholder in Apple, you are benefiting from the economic activity generated from Apple. And that's going to show up in two ways. One is through dividends, the other is through capital gains. And then if you get into things like selling stock options, that's another way to generate income too. So a lot of the investments I make, I used to invest in businesses, and I got tired of running different businesses or worrying about what somebody's going to do with my money, pouring money into stuff that wasn't working out. So I actually started putting money into stocks because I said, that's just like owning a business actually, except I don't have to do any of the work, and the people running the business are actually real experts. And there's also lots of mechanisms in place through the Securities and Exchange Commission and just market transparency that protect my investment. I don't have to worry about somebody ripping me off if I bought Google stock. That's my point. And also, last but not least, very important, is that there is always, at any time of day, or up until 4:30 p.m. Eastern anytime, or anyway, there's a liquid market where I can go at any point and say, sorry, I'm choking. I can say, I'm tired of being in Google. I want to go and I want to be invested in McDonald's. I want to be in the restaurant business. And I can literally flip it just like that, right? So that liquidity, that's what they call liquidity. That ability to convert your investment into cash is one of the best benefits that the stock market offers. That's one of the reasons why America is one of the richest countries on earth. Actually, I think it's still the richest on a per capita basis. I think China just passed us aggregately, but on a per capita basis, China, it's going to take them another 40 years to catch up with us. One of the reasons that we're one of the richest countries on earth is because we have really well functioning financial markets where you can go in anytime and get your money back, and it's a beautiful thing. Okay, all right. So next